Chapter 2046. The spiritual energy in the purple crystal cave was endless. It was so dense that it could almost turn into water and flow. Just like that, it madly poured into Chu Yang's body without end. But Chu Yang's layered heaven divine technique was neither hurried nor slow. It was like an extremely precise and law-abiding machine. Only when it reached a critical point would it suddenly operate and suck in. And so, Chu Yang fell into such a cycle. A moment ago, his body was empty. The next moment, it was so full that it was about to explode. His meridians started to bulge outwards. Even his muscles were swelling. And the next moment, it was empty again. At this moment, the layered heaven divine technique had completely become a bottomless pit. Unhurriedly but greedily, it devoured the spiritual energy in the purple crystal cave. In the end, Chu Yang simply let it go. All right, since it's not a threat to my life and you don't need me, I'll just take a rest. You can do whatever you want. Chu Yang simply used his inner vision to check the changes in the primordial real silk in his dantian. After about 2 hours, Chu Yang finally discovered that the color of the primordial real silk had stopped at an extremely bright and dazzling level and was no longer changing. Then, as the next wave of spiritual energy slowly accumulated, another strand of primordial real silk, as thin as a hair, slowly appeared. Then, Chu Yang watched with great interest as this new strand of primordial real silk slowly unfolded, lengthened, thickened, and expanded at an extremely slow speed. Fuck! Why do I feel like there's something wrong with these few sentences? Then it slowly stopped at a normal thickness and started to change color. From a dull purple, it slowly started to change into a bright color. Chu Yang finally understood something. Sword Spirit, I understand now. The Sword Spirit was startled. What do you understand? I understand why the layered heaven divine technique is so slow in this world and has no effect at all. Chu Yang said seriously. So it's because the spiritual energy in this world can't support the normal operation of the layered heaven divine technique at all. The Sword Spirit touched his nose and said very doubtfully, I remember. I've told you about this reason before. Chu Yang was stunned. You did. The Sword Spirit was stunned. Didn't I? Chu Yang, did you say that? Under Chu Yang's clear and questioning gaze, the Sword Spirit finally felt that his thoughts were in chaos. So he admitted defeat. All right. Forget it, I never said that. Chu Yang glared at him and said, You never said that. What do you mean by forget it? The Sword Spirit felt like vomiting blood. Then Chu Yang said, You only introduced the primordial real silk the last time. He suddenly recalled that even though the Sword Spirit's explanation wasn't as comprehensive as his own the last time, it could still be considered as having mentioned the primordial real silk. It was just that his explanation was rather vague. He could only say unyieldingly, I didn't. I just didn't say anything. The Sword Spirit remained silent. This guy was already unreasonable. Furthermore, he was his host. What was the point of competing with him? After a long time, Chu Yang seemed to have heard some movement outside. Then there were rustling sounds. It sounded like dust falling, but also like sand scattering all over the ground. What's that sound? Chu Yang was somewhat puzzled. The Sword Spirit rolled his eyes. The energy in the amethyst grotto outside has already been sucked dry and turned into a pile of powder. It has fallen off from the rocks. Chu Yang said in horror. You mean the entire amethyst grotto outside has already been sucked dry? It hasn't even been 8 hours since it started sucking, right? The Sword Spirit said speechlessly. This isn't you sucking it in. It's the heavenly divine technique that's sucking it in automatically. This speed. It's even faster than Ning Tianya, Buluqing and Wu Jueqing combined. How many pieces of ordinary amethyst grotto are there after it's absorbed? Chu Yang asked with great interest. Not much. The Sword Spirit did some calculations and said, just a little over 10 million pieces. Chu Yang sucked in a breath of cold air at once, flabbergasted. That's too terrifying. He lowered his head and looked at his stomach, muttering, So much spiritual energy has entered my dantian. If converted to kilograms, it's at least a few hundred kilograms, right? Why don't I feel anything? If there are dregs left after the heavenly divine technique is completely digested, do I have to relieve myself again? The sword spirit looked at him with a face full of disdain. Then, the corners of his mouth twitched as he slowly raised his face to look at the sky. As he spoke, outside, the sounds of slapping and rustling gradually merged into one. However, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth continued to surge in like raging waves. And this increase in quantity and speed was extraordinarily terrifying. Start absorbing the energy of the amethyst core now, the sword spirit said, as if this was a common occurrence. Chuyang suddenly thought of something. That's right. You've experienced many such things in the past. Tell me about it. Is every tribulation sword master different? The sword spirit said. Of course. Everyone's foundation is different, and their experiences are also different. So their final achievements are also different. The amount of amethyst grotto absorbed here. Of course, it's also different. In the end, the amethyst grotto here is to test your great Tao foundation and see how great your potential is. Chuyang said, Oh. The sword spirit said. The first tribulation sword master, Lei Jian, when he obtained the tribulation title, he only absorbed about 80% of the amethyst grotto. He didn't absorb the amethyst core, and only absorbed about 80% of the amethyst grotto. So he stopped. So in the end his cultivation stopped at 3rd grade supreme martial artist. Chuyang heaved a sigh of relief and thought to himself, I'm stronger than him. The second tribulation sword master, Feng Yun, completely absorbed all the amethyst core and couldn't continue. So his final cultivation stopped at 4th grade supreme martial artist. Chuyang thought to himself, I'm also stronger than him. The third tribulation sword master, Meng Tsang, was about the same as the second Feng Yun. The fourth tribulation sword master, Duan Tian, absorbed half of the amethyst core after absorbing all the amethyst core. His cultivation reached 8th grade supreme martial artist. The fifth tribulation sword master, Yun Dong, was the same as Duan Tian. The sixth tribulation sword master, Qin Feng, was a rare genius. He actually absorbed all the amethyst core before stopping. His cultivation reached the level of breaking through the void. He was only half a step away from breaking through the void. Yes, he was slightly stronger than Bulu Qing before he broke through the void. This person is amazing. Chuyang sucked in a breath of cold air. The seventh tribulation sword master, Lin Zun, regressed and only reached 8th grade supreme martial artist. The 8th tribulation sword master, Jun Lai, reached the peak of supreme martial artist. He was only slightly weaker than Qin Feng. Chuyang said thoughtfully. In other words, the first 8 tribulation sword masters all obtained the tribulation sword fragment in different environments. Then their achievements were all different. They couldn't all be in the Pagoda Mountain, right? No, they weren't in the Pagoda Mountain, the sword spirit said with certainty. Chuyang murmured. In other words, their highest cultivation was only after absorbing all the amethyst cores. Chuyang recalled that he was starting to absorb the amethyst cores and couldn't help but feel a little nervous. I wonder how far I can go. The sword spirit laughed. You're definitely stronger than them. You'll definitely be able to absorb amethyst jade essence. However, how much amethyst jade essence you can absorb will depend on your luck. Chuyang chuckled. That's good. As long as I'm not weaker than them, I'll be satisfied. The sword spirit rolled his eyes and thought, how can you be weaker than them? Just based on your current state, you're already much stronger than them. While the two of them waited, the amethyst cores slowly started to turn into powder from the outermost layer and rustled down. However, it would still take some time to absorb all the amethyst cores that were hundreds of feet long. Chuyang had been standing naked. Although there were no outsiders around, he still felt quite uncomfortable. He took out a black robe from his space and sat down cross-legged. He covered his lower body with the black robe and said, I'll take a nap first. Wake me up when I'm done. The sword spirit was stunned. You'll take a nap? At such a critical moment, which of the previous tribulation sword masters wasn't watching and waiting with full concentration? Now that it's your turn, you actually want to take a nap. Damn, I've really met a fucking monster this time. Can you even sleep? Besides, the previous tribulation sword masters couldn't wait to raise their feet, so that the soles of their feet could also absorb spiritual energy. Chuyang, you're really different. You actually remembered to cover your lower body with a robe at such a time. Do you know how many channels of spiritual energy are blocked by your robe? The sword spirit was speechless. Sure enough, before Chu Yang could finish speaking, the black robe that Chu Yang had just covered himself with was torn into pieces by the violent spiritual energy and fell to the ground like butterflies. Chu Yang was stunned. I'm going to faint. I'm not even allowed to wear clothes? Cough whatever. It's not like I haven't slept naked before. Besides, you're not a woman. If you were, I'd take you in. As he spoke, he leaned against the wall of the soul of purple crystal behind him and closed his eyes. The sword spirit looked at the surface of Chu Yang's skin that was constantly bulging and falling. He gloated somewhat. If you can sleep like this, I'll really take my hat off to you. After a long while, the spiritual energy continued to flow in wave after wave. The amethyst cores outside had already started to fall off in large patches. While the sword spirit was stunned, Minister Chu didn't open his eyes again after he closed them. Then his breathing was thin and long, and he started to snore softly. He actually really fell asleep. The sword spirit's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Looking at Chu Yang's skin that was still bulging and falling, he broke down. My dear brother, you really fell asleep. You're too weird. If the sword spirit had real hair and beard, he would probably be pulling his own hair and going crazy right now. I've never seen anything like this before. You're too open-minded, aren't you? What's there for Chu Yang to be open-minded about? Anyway, there's nothing for me to do. I just have to wait for the final inspection of the results. When I look, it's still this. But Chu Yang still didn't stop. He continued to drink a few more glasses. He said, Sword Spirit, I'm thinking about the words that Shui Leihan asked Ning Tianya to pass on. The Sword Spirit said, Oh, what happened? Chu Yang said, Shui Leihan said that my love life is actually destined. Because I was too tough in my previous life, Wu Qianqian treated me with gentleness. Because I was too straightforward in my previous life, Tai Butian gave me wisdom. Because I was ruthless in my previous life, Mo Qinggu compensated me with love. Chu Yang was a little drunk. He said, At first it seems to make some sense. But now that I think about it, Shui Leihan is just spouting nonsense. It's just an excuse to comfort me and help me untie the knot in my heart. The sword spirit frowned. Then what do you think? Chu Yang said. At the end of the day, it's my own business. In other words, my feelings for Qinggu can't be changed by heaven and earth. I'm sure of this. So Mo Qinggu. I must have her. Next, let's talk about senior sister Wu. Senior sister, Wu has always had feelings for me. I've always known about it, and have always avoided it. But I'm a man. Sword Spirit, we'll be together for a long time. You clearly know that this stunning beauty has deep feelings for you. What kind of feeling is that? Then, later on, I misunderstood her again. I misunderstood that she really became the Empress of Iron Cloud. Later on, the misunderstanding was resolved, but she was already on the verge of death in order to save me. If I didn't care about her, or if I could save her but not save her, or if I saved her and then told her that I didn't accept her, do you think I would still be a man if I did that? The sword spirit was stunned. Then there's Tai Butian. At that time, I was unconscious. You were exhausted and in a deep sleep. I was poisoned by the lust dragon. Tai Butian didn't care about her noble status, and sacrificed her daughter's innocence to save my life. Moreover, without my knowledge, she gave birth to a child for me. When I found out the truth, if I didn't want them and refused to admit it, what would I do? Then, what kind of person would I be? But all of this went against the insistence of my heart from the beginning. So whatever I did was wrong. Chu Yang drank a cup of wine. If I gave up, I was heartless. If I accepted, I was guilty. Whatever I did, I was beastly. Both were unfair to them. So now, I finally thought it through. To think that Shui Leihan was so worried that he specially found someone to talk to resolve the knot in my heart. In fact, this is a very simple matter. The sword spirit asked, Why? Simple? Chu Yang chuckled drunkenly. Since giving up is painful, and accepting it is also painful, then I might as well accept it. What's the big deal? In short, I'm asking for trouble. I'm asking for it. If it were any other man, I guarantee that there wouldn't be so many problems. Chapter 2049. Purple light flickered, and around the 100 holes, 20 words appeared. Each of them was vigorous and powerful. Accept my purple cloud tower, and fulfill my wish back then. Always remember, exterminate the extraterrestrial demons. Chu Yang was stunned. Purple cloud tower? What was that? Suddenly, his heart shook violently, and he thought of a possibility. This purple cloud tower couldn't be this pagoda mountain. For a moment, his mouth suddenly went dry. The words flickered as if they were urging him to hurry up. Chu Yang said quietly and sincerely, I, Chu Yang, swear to the souls of thousands of predecessors that I will exterminate the extraterrestrial demons. With a wave of his hand, the holy crystal and divine crystal eagerly left the tribulation space and appeared above the disk. At once, purple light shone brightly. The next moment, with a whoosh, the divine crystal and holy crystal flew out at the same time. As if they had been away from home for tens of thousands of years, they cheered and jumped into their mother's arms. They flew onto the disk and took their places. Everything was done in an orderly manner. It was completely seamless. In an instant, the 100 holes above were all blocked up. With a flash, the holy crystal and divine crystal disappeared into the holes. Then the disk slowly shrank and spun slowly. It spun to the side of Chu Yang's wrist and rubbed against it gently. Chu Yang's wrist was immediately cut open. The disk spun and suddenly revealed a sense of sadness and reluctance, as if it was silently bidding farewell to its original owner. Then, it moved closer to the blood on Chu Yang's wrist. Blood quickly dyed the edges of the disk red. Then the disk suddenly flew up. The wound on Chu Yang's wrist was completely healed and became smooth again. The disk spun slowly and landed gently in Chu Yang's palm. Chu Yang said softly, You don't have to worry. I will treat you well. Besides, I will also fulfill Lord Z's lifelong wish and exterminate the extraterrestrial demons. From now on, you are my partner. The disk jumped in Chu Yang's palm, as if it was agreeing and rejoicing. Then it disappeared in Chu Yang's palm. The moment the disk disappeared, the cave wall in front of Chu Yang silently separated into two sides, revealing a passage with purple aura. At the entrance of the passage, there were two large words written in bold calligraphy. Congratulations. Chu Yang's eyes widened. This was Shui Leihan's handwriting. Chu Yang finally understood. He completely understood. Back then, the heavenly emperor of the purple clouds was definitely related to Shui Leihan. Moreover, this relationship should not be a small matter. After the death of the purple firmament heavenly emperor, what he left behind was definitely not the only inheritance in the Northwest. There were two of them. Furthermore, this was an inheritance. Shui Leihan must have done it secretly. Chapter 2050. The heavenly passageway was finally opened. Ning Tianya sighed. He was also shocked by the changes in heaven and earth for a long time, before he remembered Chu Yang's instructions. Yes, it would be good to go down and take a look. Swaying his body, he walked slowly toward the entrance of the passageway. It was around here, not far at all. Ning Tianya could overtake it with just a quick movement. When he reached the entrance of the passageway, he saw that there were already people from the Long clan standing guard. Not far away, there was also a house of the Long clan. By the looks of it, they had been standing guard here for a long time. Many people were coming out of the house and walking toward the entrance of the passageway. Old man, what are you looking at like a thief? Where are you going? Just as he turned the corner, someone suddenly shouted. Ning Tianya was stunned for a long time before he realized that this old man was referring to himself. He couldn't help but become angry. Do I really look so familiar? I want to go down. All of you get out of the way. Ning Tianya really didn't even have the interest to fight with this small fry in front of him. Go down? You want to go down? The burly man from the Long clan laughed. You want to go down in the afternoon? You want to go down just because you want to? Who do you think you are? Are you Ning Tianya? Ning Tianya was both angry and amused at once. This guy is really impressive, guessing who I am with just one sentence. Unfortunately, it's sarcastic. Yes, how do you know that I'm Ning Tianya? Ning Tianya asked with a smile. That burly man was stunned for a moment. Then he burst into laughter and said in a strange tone, "You're Ning Tianya? Ha ha ha. Old Ning, you don't recognize me? I'm Baluching." The 7 or 8 burly men beside him laughed so hard that they were convulsing. Ning Tianya's face darkened. "These few bastards, I simply can't tolerate them. I was half angry at Chu Yang, and now that I'm here, I'm half angry again. And it's these few wretched small fries." In a rage he shouted, "Get lost!" An awe-inspiring aura was suddenly released. The next moment, as if they had seen a ghost, these 7 or 8 people suddenly went limp and couldn't move at all. Ning Tianya snorted coldly. Suddenly, he felt that there was really no need for the Long clan to exist. But then he felt his murderous intent, because of these few small fries. It was really beneath his status. However, a feeling suddenly arose in his heart. If the Long clan really doesn't know what's good for them in the lower 3 heavens, then I'll just kill them. He walked in leisurely, passing by 7 or 8 people and entering the passageway. At this moment, the Long clan's troops were still several hundred feet away from this place. Seeing someone who didn't belong to the Long clan enter the passageway, he couldn't help but feel surprised. But when they got closer... Chapter 2051. Knowing that this old man in front of her was actually the #1 expert in the world, Ning Tianya, Tai Butian was also greatly shocked. Although Ning Tianya looked calm and composed on the surface, he was also extremely embarrassed on the inside. After all, this matter was a little too comical. She was here to help someone, but she was knocked down by a 1-year-old child instead. Not to mention Ning Tianya. Even if the Saint Tian Ke were here, he would probably be too ashamed to show his face. But Tai Butian only used 1 sentence to resolve Ning Tianya's embarrassment. "If there really is happiness in this world, then I have it now. Thank you, Senior Ning." Ning Tianya was the most embarrassed, but he was also moved by this sentence. Because Ning Tianya was invited by Chu Yang, as a woman who had been separated from her beloved for a long time, to be able to receive help from her beloved at the most difficult time was a great blessing to Tai Butian. Ning Tianya's arrival meant that nothing would go wrong. In that case, it also guaranteed Tai Butian's happiness in the future. Like a stabilizing force, Ning Tianya's arrival was absolutely uplifting. Tai Butian used such a tactful method to express her joy and satisfaction. Ning Tianya needed to think before he could understand. And it was during this time of thinking that all his embarrassment was blown away by the wind just like that. And to a certain extent, it also resolved some of the slight hostility in Ning Tianya's heart. After all, the empress in front of him was his disciple's love rival. But now, there was no empress in front of Ning Tianya. Only an ordinary woman who felt extremely blissful because of a little concern from her beloved. "I naturally won't let Chu Yang down by coming here today." Ning Tianya smiled and said, "I will do my best to ensure the safety of your Majesty's mother." Although Ning Tianya was very confident, he still didn't make a promise. Tai Butian said seriously, "If Senior Ning is confident, please protect the safety of the people of the lower 3 heavens. This storm arose because of Chu Yang and me, but I don't want anyone in this world to suffer because of this matter. Ever since I ascended the throne, the world has been peaceful. Currently, the world is at peace, and the people are recuperating. The hardships of the war a few years ago have been slightly recovered in these few years. Now the people are living in peace and happiness. But this kind of happiness didn't come easily, very fragile. If a great battle were to break out at this time, or if the battle between the strong caused the sky to fall and the earth to shatter, it would definitely cast a shadow over the hearts of the people, and they might even be hurt. So, I'll have to trouble Senior Ning." Ning Tianya sighed and said, "Of course." At this moment, to this empress, Ning Tianya actually felt some admiration for him. But as an emperor, it's not something that can be given up easily. Just closing one's eyes can cause millions of people to suffer unspeakably. Just slacking off can cause millions of people to be in poverty. Tai Butian's eyes dimmed for a moment. She said, "Others may be a woman first, and then have other identities, but I have to be an emperor first before I can talk about being a woman." Ning Tianya didn't say anything. Tai Butian's words were from the bottom of her heart. In front of people like Ning Tianya, she couldn't fake it. As long as a word didn't come from her heart, Ning Tianya would be able to sense it. But all the way until Tai Butian finished speaking, Ning Tianya only felt absolute sincerity. Supremacy. Ning couldn't help but let out a long sigh in his heart. He really didn't know what kind of luck Chu Yang had. To actually have such an extraordinary woman fall in love with him. A woman like this made Ning Tianya speechless. Ning Tianya only rejoiced in his heart. If his disciple competed fairly with her, he might really lose. After a moment of silence, even Ning Tianya didn't know why he suddenly said, Chu Yang's woman is this old man's disciple, his only brother. Tai Butian didn't seem surprised. She just smiled. What do you mean, elder? Actually, Ning Tianya already wanted to slap himself when he said that. He was even more speechless now. Chu Yang already has someone he loves. I've known about it a long time ago, so I've always kept my feelings a secret. Tai Butian seemed to be explaining something. She laughed bitterly and said, I don't like to fight with others, nor do I like others to fight with me. If he hadn't been poisoned back then, he would never have known about my identity. After that, I found out that I was pregnant. Tai Butian pursed her lips and said, At that time, I even wanted to use the palace's secret prescription to abort this child. I didn't want to be a burden to him, nor did I want to give him a reason to accept me. But I'm still a woman after all, and I'm still selfish. Tai Butian said self-deprecatingly, Firstly, I can't bear to have a child with a man I approve of. Secondly, as a mother, I can't bear to do that. Thirdly, Ironcloud also needs an heir. Among the direct descendants of the Ironcloud royal family, I'm the only one left. If I don't have an heir, it will definitely end here. Surely elder doesn't think that I, Tai Butian, am the kind of woman who can have a child with any random man. Tai Butian smiled mockingly. Then she said seriously, So, even if I'm scolded for being shameless because of this, I have no regrets. No woman would kill her own flesh and blood, just because someone else scolded her for being shameless. Even if I've caused harm to your disciple, I can only say sorry. Tai Butian laughed softly. Actually, your disciple is also one of the reasons why I didn't want to go to the upper three heavens to accompany Chu Yang. Chapter 2052. No matter how thick-skinned one was, one wouldn't treat this as glory either. After being beaten up, having one's spirit sealed and beaten up, to actually go around bragging about it as glory. Guigu felt that he wasn't that crazy. Going by this analogy, the other two naturally wouldn't be so stupid either. However, he couldn't refute Chu Yang's words. Because this was indeed the truth. If he wasn't a top-notch expert, that person really wouldn't seal his spirit and enter. Back then, my big brother had once said that in this world, there were only 10 people who were qualified to fight with him. And Elder Gu was one of them. My big brother also only explained to me about the other 2 people, whose names were on this token. May I know who the others are? Chu Yang smiled and said, Elder Gu is very familiar with the heroes of the world. You must know, right? Guigu frowned. His squarish head swayed like an 8-pound hammer. He said, I really don't know who has fought with this crazy person before. Chu Yang sweated. Then in Elder Gu's mind, who are the experts in this world? Guigu raised his head, his eyes somewhat perplexed, as if he was thinking and rummaging through his memories. Emotinji's ears twitched. His gaze became serious. These were top-notch information that ordinary people couldn't know. Ever since I came out, I've been defeated 8 times. Guigu said. And before my cultivation reached peak level, that's not counted. These words immediately shocked Chu Yang and the others. Before his cultivation reached peak level, that was not counted. This meant that after he reached peak level, he had actually been defeated by 8 people in succession. This matter made Chu Yang and the others break out in cold sweat. Were there so many experts in this world? The first time, I snatched a treasure and attracted someone. This person beat me up, but I had already sold that treasure. That beating wasn't light. But in the end, after that person found out about my mission, he didn't kill me. Instead, he gave me 1,000,000 purple crystals. Guigu said. Chu Yang frowned. Who was that person? That person was called Wu Qinfeng. Guigu thought hard. That was 30,000 years ago? Or more than 10,000 years ago? My memory is really unclear. Wu Qinfeng. Supreme martial artist Qinfeng. Chu Yang's body shook. The second loss was to a beautiful woman called Lu Yun. She really likes her horse. At that time, they had agreed to deposit it. She didn't sell it, but the price she offered me was more than 10 times higher than what I offered to sell my horse. But in the end, I still couldn't help myself, and took some blood essence to eat. I didn't expect that woman to actually be able to tell after she came back. She gave me a good beating. Guigu grimaced. It was only after she beat me up that I found out that she was Wu Qinfeng's wife. Chu Yang was speechless. As for winning or losing, Second Master Dong had never considered it. Second Master Ji and Luo Kadi, on the other hand, thought this isn't within the scope of our worries. Anyway, there are things to worry about. Whatever they say, we'll do it. As for Rui Butong, it was even simpler. At most, we'll just fight with our lives on the line. The few brothers had completely different mentalities. To be continued. This gigolo Di Wuqingro had actually established such supreme authority in such a short time? However, it was difficult to provoke public anger. The Shi family expert obediently lowered his head, and didn't say anything. If I offend all the big shots here, then I'll have to wait to make things difficult for them. This is a matter of life and death. Di Wuqingro's eyes flashed as he said in a warm voice. Since the other party is so cautious, then why don't you take action? Wasn't choosing to fight when they were at a disadvantage the same as courting death? You even lost the chance to struggle at death's door? Furthermore, if we were to launch a long-distance attack, we would even be able to take down the Li clan's headquarters in one fell swoop. But right now we can't even find such an opportunity. Even the most ordinary military advisor wouldn't do such a thing. Elder Shi, you're worrying too much. That Shi family expert blushed and murmured, Yes. Yes. At this moment, feeling the knife-like gazes coming from all directions, he instantly felt that his back was sweating. Di Wuqingro continued his analysis. Since there are definitely more than before, then I'm afraid it's not 150 to 200 people, but between 200 to 300 people. With this number, the Li clan's headquarters will be in danger. Yes, that was what everyone was thinking in their hearts. With the Li clan's strength, no one would be surprised if they were to mobilize 50,000 martial artists now. But these 50,000 people were all martial artists. But those who could fight against the experts of the 8 super clans alliance army here. The Li clan definitely didn't have more than 1,200 people. Furthermore, under the constant pressure, the Li clan had depleted at least close to 300 people in the battle. This was referring to the dead, and the injured were about the same. Under such circumstances, if they mobilized more than 400 experts, the Li clan's headquarters would be extremely empty. It's a little too many people, so the other party must have a target this time. Di Wuqingro said softly. And such a target can't be a small number. It's very likely that they want to remove one of our points. Firstly, one of our points, no matter which clan we belong to, our individual strength is now slightly weaker than theirs. It's completely possible. Secondly, if they come and go like the wind and retreat after one strike, then it's another powerful deterrent. Bring over the map of the distribution of our forces. Di Wuqingro instructed calmly. Lan Mofeng responded, and immediately took down a paper bag hanging on the wall. With a casual suction, a platform made of earth appeared in the middle of the tent. With a swoosh, the map unfolded on top of it. Di Wuqingro waved and said, Come and take a look. Everyone gathered around at the same time. Right now, our distribution is Phoenix Palace. Chapter 2055. GMO agreed repeatedly. He patted his chest and made a series of promises, then left confidently. Given Jimo's current cultivation, even if Li Xiongtu was in a coma, and Jian would definitely not be Jimo's match. Everyone took their seats one by one. They were Chu Yang, Mo Tianji Tan Tan, Luo Kadi, Gu Duxing Rui Butong, Mo Qingwu, Chu Luo Mo Layer, Dong Wushang, Wu Jiweching, Guigu, Duke Yu, and 2 other elders from the 3 Stars Divine Clan. Other than Ao Xiayan and Xie Danxiong, who were outside making arrangements, and GMO, who went to fight the enemy, all the key figures were gathered here. Why did you take so long? Why didn't you come a little later? Wouldn't it have been easier for you to come after we started fighting with the allied forces of the clans? Chu Yang frowned and questioned Tan Tan. The moment he opened his mouth, his tone was one of condemnation. It even seemed a little condescending and vicious. The elder from the Three Stars Divine Clan was very displeased with Chu Yang's attitude. He was furious and shouted, "How can you speak like that? Who are you talking to? Do you know who you are talking to? Show some respect." Don't be fooled by how unruly their divine king was. This was ultimately a family matter and a family member. It was unacceptable for an outsider to offend them. Tan Tan was furious. He turned around and shouted, "How can you speak like that? Who are you talking to? Do you know who you are talking to?" As he spoke, he was about to give him a slap. Why do we need an outsider like you to intervene in our matters? How can you be so blind? How we speak is our business. Even if we scold each other, what can you do about it? No matter what your original intention is, you can't interrupt us for no reason. Endless saliva sprayed all over this elder's face. That elder was tongue-tied at once, but he was completely at a loss. He didn't know where he had offended the Divine King again. Wasn't he speaking up for the Divine King? Sitting right beside him, Guigu's expression didn't change. With a crooked corner of his lips, he sent a telepathic message in a low voice. "Idiot! This is that senior brother that our Divine King often talks about. In other words, he is Divine King Chu. You idiot! Why don't you shut up? Just listen with your ears. If you dare to make another sound, be careful that the Divine King will slap your face." Holy King Chu. The elder of the Yu clan suddenly realized and shut his mouth tightly. It was not that they did not know that this was the legendary Holy King Chu. If they knew, would they dare to interrupt? Ahem, senior brother. Please be magnanimous and listen to my explanation. Actually, we didn't come late. We came quite early. Tan Tan rubbed his nose and said, "We did come, but we deliberately waited for a while. Perhaps we would have waited a little longer if senior brother hadn't come forward to confront that old man Xiao." Chu Yang frowned and sighed deeply. He naturally understood the meaning behind Tan Tan's words. After all, how could he not feel the affection his brother had for him? If he hadn't come forward to stop them, the Three-Star Divine Clan would have had every reason to watch as the Li clan was wiped out. Then, they would have come to pluck the fruits of their labor. At that time, they would have directly taken over the entire Li clan's territory. That outcome would have been the most ideal for the Three-Star Divine Clan. To be honest, Chu Yang also agreed that other than a very limited number of people in the Li clan, the rest of the people were really fucking not worth saving. However, it was those limited number of people that made Chu Yang feel a deep sense of pity. In particular, the founder of the Li clan, Li Chuanbua, made Chu Yang feel a kind of respect from the bottom of his heart. In the ancestral land of the great clans, he really didn't know if there would be a second person who could give him such a feeling. It was really a pity that such a person had died just like that. Secondly, there was the situation of the Three-Star Divine Clan itself. Right now, the Three-Star Divine Clan urgently needed a foothold. If the Li clan still had its strength, even if it was only a small part of it, it would still be impossible for the Three-Star Divine Clan to gain a foothold in this land. In that case, there would definitely be a battle between the two sides. The one who would lose would certainly be the Li clan, but there would be no possibility of a peaceful ending. When that time really came, the fate of the women and children of the Li clan was destined to be annihilated. I understand what you mean. It's just a pity that a hero like Li Chuanbua has died. It's really a pity. Chu Yang sighed, somewhat disappointed. How could I not understand that? Tan Tan became solemn, which was rare of him. Therefore, I won't make things difficult for his grandchildren. Also, we will maintain a cooperative attitude toward them. We won't treat them as servants or slaves. To be honest, there are also benefits to keeping them around. After all, there are some necessary survival skills on this continent that we also need to learn from them. If there are any of their grandchildren who are successful, we will also do our best to nurture them. Previously, I had promised that the Li clan would retain its independent status. This will never change, Tan Tan said. Take this as my way of expressing my apology to the hero Li Chuanbua. He sneered. Although the rest of the people in the Li clan aren't worthy of me doing this at all, Mo Tianji said. This outcome is already very good. It will definitely exceed the expectations of most people. These words of his were directed at Chu Yang. Chu Yang nodded. Chapter 2056. Then it's the next step for us. Chu Yang patted his thigh lightly and said, We've already exposed our identities in the War of the Northwest. It can be imagined that the big clans will definitely see us as thorns and want to get rid of us. From now on, I'm afraid that every step we take will be filled with thorns. It will be even more difficult to achieve anything. So, everyone must be careful. Also, everyone must continue to improve their strength to deal with unexpected situations. Mo Tianji and the others nodded heavily to express their agreement. Since we've already exposed our identities, we might as well not keep a low profile anymore. Let loose completely and turn the world upside down. Mo Tianji's words made everyone feel as if their blood was surging. However, Mo Tianji had actually been pondering over these words, as he slowly said them word by word. Yes, that's exactly what I mean. Chu Yang nodded approvingly. Our next step is to rush out from the northwest, rush back to the southeast, then rush out from the southeast, and rush into the Heavenly Pinnacle Grand Assembly. Turn the world upside down. The legend of the tribulation has been around for a long time. In our generation, we naturally have to write a new chapter of this legend. Good. Dong Wushang and Gu Duxing were the first to respond. Then, Rui Butong and Luo Kadi, the two fellows who only wish for the world to be in chaos, raised their hands and feet in agreement. Hey, cough, cough, cough. Wait. A discordant voice suddenly sounded from the side. Who was so annoying to pour cold water on everyone at this time? Everyone turned to look at the source of the voice. It was the handsome Dukyu who deserved a beating. Dukyu, what unique opinion do you have? Chu Yang clearly knew why Dukyu was looking for him, but he pretended not to know. This was the way things were. Rushing to the top was more comfortable and cheaper than buying from the top. Cough, I'm not trying to pour cold water on everyone. I just think that increasing our strength is the most urgent problem right now. After all, only with profound strength will we have more capital. Dukyu coughed and said very calmly. And now, I just happen to know a place that can greatly increase everyone's strength. Yes, I can guarantee that as long as we get there, our cultivation can double, or even more in one night. Dukyu could be considered to have put in a lot of effort. For the sake of the great cause of his race, he didn't hesitate to speak without thinking. He bragged as much as he could. However, what he said, combined with the actual situation of the Calamity Sword, was completely reasonable. It was very likely that it would appear. But the problem was that Dukyu didn't even know where the 8th fragment of the Calamity Sword was. So he was just spouting nonsense. Then he said in an exceptionally solemn tone, Something is wrong. This seems a little strange. Strange? Chu Yang and Dukyu frowned as they heard this. All the brothers concentrated their gazes and looked over. Just now, everyone's attention was not on observing the situation, so they did not pay too much attention to it. Now that they focused on observing, they could faintly feel that there was something wrong with this forest. It was really a little strange. The forest was still the same forest, full of greenery, full of vitality, and full of the aura of life. However, in this great atmosphere, there was a hidden sense of danger. Although it was hidden very well, it felt very real. It was as if there was a ferocious beast hidden inside. It was about to devour someone. Moreover, it was a peerless beast that could devour anyone. This feeling actually seems a little familiar. Ao Xieyin frowned and said, It's an exceptionally terrifying pressure. It seems that even the heart can't beat normally under this pressure. Oh yes, this feeling is exactly what I felt when the black aura descended that day. It's just that it's a lot fainter now, as if it's completely hidden. However, the feeling is indeed there. Yes, it's that feeling. When Ao Xieyin mentioned it, all the brothers immediately reacted and expressed their agreement. Not only is it completely hidden, but it's also deliberately concealing itself. However, a heavenly demon is a heavenly demon. No matter how much it conceals itself, it will still be detected. Chu Yang's gaze was solemn. The conclusion is that the heavenly demon is actually here. Mo Tianji forced a smile and said, Brother Yu, if our estimation is correct, then your lair is likely to be occupied by the enemy at this moment. And this enemy is someone with terrifying strength that we can't contend against right now. Duke Yu gritted his teeth and said, Heavenly demon? It's actually him? Why would he be here? It's really too coincidental. It's so coincidental that it's frightening. Chu Yang took a deep breath and his gaze was deep. After the heavenly demon massacred the Shi clan, his whereabouts were unknown. No one in the entire Jianghu knows of his whereabouts. However, although it's unexpected that he's here, it's not unreasonable. This is because from the Shi clan to the south, one has to pass through this dense forest. Such a vast and dense place is undoubtedly the best place to hide. Duke Yu instantly felt his teeth ache and said angrily, What the fuck is this? We finally got a chance to restore our clan's glory, but it's actually taken by that heavenly demon? This is really outrageous. Everyone was speechless. If this was the case, Duke Yu was really unlucky. Chu Yang pondered and said, Don't be too depressed. This enemy may not be undefeatable. Duke Yu turned his head. Oh. In the next moment, they had already turned into ordinary bluestones and completely sealed the teacup's entrance. This situation was extremely similar to a small well. In the next moment, as the spring of life was injected again, the sunken space began to slowly float up. Gurgle, gurgle, gurgle sounds could be heard. A light fragrance that refreshed one's heart and mind wafted up. Chu Yang greedily took a breath. Increase the input. Increase the input quick. Quickly increase it. Increase it to the maximum. Duke Yu shouted excitedly as he danced with joy. Chu Yang rolled his eyes. Big brother, do you think I'll increase the input just because you say so? Damn it, do you think that this thing is free? This is the spring of life, not some dirt that can be seen everywhere. I originally thought that you were quite understanding. Why are you acting like this at the last moment? Chu Yang's trusted aide was cursing endlessly, but his hands abruptly doubled the input. Oh my god, what is this? My spring of life. In the tribulation space, the sword spirit's heart ached as he watched the water level of the spring of life gradually decrease. He was so angry that smoke was coming out of his 7 orifices. He shouted loudly, Let me out! Let me out! Give me a knife! I want to chop this elf to death with one chop. This shameless bandit. I want to chop him to death, slice by slice, slice by slice. Ah! At this moment, the sword spirit was completely driven mad in the tribulation space. Duke Yu was also driven mad outside. Now, Duke Yu's hands were dancing and his feet were dancing. He had completely lost track of what year it was. Leduo that spanned 100,000 years. The elf race's biggest Leduo had been realized. Ah! Duke Yu was already in a state of confusion. He couldn't even remember what to say. He just kept on saying, ah! The small spring had already stopped bubbling with rainbow-colored light. Instead, with a schwa sound, a stream of sparkling spring water rushed out and rushed towards Chu Yang, who was sitting on the wooden stake. The spring of life. This phenomenon meant that the spring of life below had completely recovered. Moreover, the spring of life had an exceptionally special characteristic. It was the greatest life. Whoever gave me life, I would repay them tenfold. This was gratitude for life. Chu Yang had awakened the spring of life and restored it to full vitality. Therefore, the spring of life would rather do nothing to repay Chu Yang's kindness. This was the characteristic of the spring of life. Today's third update. Make up for the first chapter. I just came back, and I'm still tired. It seems that I won't be able to write the fourth update today. However, I will continue to make up for it tomorrow. In other words, tomorrow's third update will still be above. It won't be considered explosive, and I won't need monthly votes. Chapter 2059. The origin of the heavenly demon that he cultivated was naturally his private property. All the heavenly demons agreed with this point of view. To the heavenly demon clan, this was a matter of course. Oh, I understand now. The Dharma Supreme smiled and said, It is my honor to be able to do something for Senior. He cursed in his heart. Damn you. How dare you extract my origin to heal my injuries? You idiot from outside the domain. All the women of your ancestors. Yes, this is how it should be. The few words of the heavenly demon almost caused the Dharma Supreme to have a cerebral hemorrhage. However, he did not show it on his face. Even the higher-level heavenly demons could not be compared to the human pseudo-emperor in terms of concealment of human nature. At the same time, another thought came to the Dharma Supreme's mind. He can extract my origin of the heavenly demon to strengthen himself? In that case, can I also extract his origin of the heavenly demon for my own use? It should be possible. If I can extract all the origin of the heavenly demon from this guy, then how much stronger will I be? The Dharma Supreme's mind went through all kinds of thoughts at lightning speed. The most important thing now is to need the spirits of some supreme martial artists, and above to make up for our losses. When the heavenly demon said the word strong, there was obvious disdain. Since when did I, the great heavenly demon, have to address the so-called supreme martial artists here as experts? Strong? Are they worthy? They are just slightly stronger ants. Forcing himself to suppress his displeasure, he ordered, "Come here. I'll teach you how to absorb the power of divine souls. Go out and kill people, then absorb their divine souls for me to use, strengthen your strength, and heal my injuries." The Dharma Supreme's eyes flashed and he said, "Okay. I will definitely kill them to your satisfaction. Killing a few people for senior is naturally not a problem, no matter how many I kill. I dare not say much about other things on this continent, but there are quite a lot of people." The heavenly demon smiled satisfactorily and said, "You are very obedient. As long as you are obedient, there will be many benefits. Yes, listen carefully." The heavenly demon did not suspect that the Dharma Supreme would have any strange thoughts. After all, he was the one who gave birth to the heavenly demon's origin. In the heavenly demon clan, this was a great favor. This was the heavenly demon's creed. No matter what he wanted him to do, it was only right and proper. The celestial fiend clan had been passing down their inheritance in this manner for millions of years, so there was really nothing to worry about. However, he did not realize that what he was facing now was not a true heavenly demon, but a heavenly layer human. Moreover, this human was a powerful figure who was used to ordering people around. However, the moonlight continued to shine, and an endless amount of mysterious energy poured into the forest without holding back. Chu Yang discovered that after about half a day, the spring water had become turbid. Well, it couldn't be said to be turbid. Instead, it had turned into the color of the moonlight. It was gradually settling down. Moreover, strings of rainbow-colored bubbles were also continuously emerging. Gurgle gurgle. This is the so-called celestial crystal moonlight. Now that the celestial crystal moonlight has appeared, it proves that the ancient tree of life has been revived. And the appearance of this spring water is the celestial crystal moonlight gathered in the entire forest, converting it into the special energy needed by the city of fairies, and transmitting it to the city of fairies. As if seeing Chu Yang's confusion, Duke Yu explained calmly. "I see," Chu Yang exclaimed. "No wonder the fairy race was once so powerful. All the flowers and trees in such a huge forest were absorbing energy and converting it. How powerful was the energy?" What Chu Yang did not know was that with the revival of the ancient tree of life, and the appearance of the celestial crystal moonlight, the periphery of this forest was also spreading outwards at a speed visible to the naked eye. Trees emerged from the periphery and slowly occupied pieces of land that did not belong to this forest. It seemed that at this speed, they would be able to occupy the entire continent. However, all of this was carried out silently. In just half a day, this originally vast forest had expanded by 1/10 of its original size. Moreover, this expansion was still ongoing, and it was still firmly continuing. If only one person could absorb all this energy. Looking at the celestial crystal moonlight constantly converting the energy, some of it even condensing into a substance, Chu Yang could not help but daydream endlessly. Don't have unrealistic and blind thoughts. Even if a deity were to rashly obtain this energy, he would also explode in an instant. Duke Yu looked at him disdainfully and turned his head away. He no longer looked at this bumpkin, who had not seen the world. Chu Yang sweated profusely. Finally, this day had finally arrived. The spring water no longer bubbled and started to emit dense mist. The mist was very light at first, but it gradually became thicker and thicker. Finally, it was so thick that it was like a substance. Chu Yang took a breath and felt comfortable all over. This phenomenon lasted for a few hours. The thick mist gradually thinned and became clear again. Looking down from the spring's eye, one could not tell how deep the spring water was. It seemed to lead to the end of another world. When one's eyes looked into the calm spring water, they actually could not see their own reflection. Dukyu took a deep breath and said with a dignified face, "Clean water without a shadow. Life force is transformed. Spring of life is formed.